Welcome to the Fishing for a Reason podcast. I'm Jamie.
I'm Scott.
And today we're going to cover a really fun and interesting topic, which I say every single week. We're going to talk about the Bellingham Bay fishery. So there's a really unique and exciting opportunity. I don't know. Would you say it's little known? I don't know. Not anymore, but some people have never heard of this opportunity. So we are going to talk about it today in depth, in detail. But first, before we dive into that, what's been going on?
Well, Area 7, as you know, or may not know, we had 3 days on the opener. We had one additional day, and actually I couldn't fish the last day. We didn't actually get out and fish either the last day, but seemed like it was lukewarm most of the time. Caught some nice wild fish, a couple of nice keeper fish, and hence they gave us another day. So still waiting. I don't suspect we'll get another day, but who knows?
Yep. By the time you hear this, you'll know if there's another day. We're recording it a little sooner than that. It's July still.
It is still July.
Yeah.
Other than that, crabbing's been good. I've heard a lot of fish being caught out at CQ, and I think the oceans are putting out some good fish. So if you're out there off the coast, congrats. We're in here in the Sound. And then the pinks, I'm starting to see a few pinks jumping more and more, and haven't quite seen any coho yet, although there were a few coho caught during the openers for kings inside Area 7.
Very sporadically.
So they're coming.
Yep. So super exciting for the month of August. And today we're going to dig into the Bellingham Bay fishery. So what we're going to talk about, you guys know by now if you're tuning into this podcast that I'm a nerd and I love to research things. So we're going to go a little bit into a deep dive about the Bellingham Bay fishery, why it exists, what that means for us anglers, and what exciting opportunities there are for us coming August/September, as well as talk about the Resurrection Derby, which is also coming up. So tons to talk about. At the very end, we're going to give you a little sneak peek of how to fish that area. So make sure you tune in the whole way through this podcast if you actually want to learn how to be more successful in this fishery. I want to give you guys a brief history of the Bellingham Bay fishery. I was finding myself asking, we have extremely limited seasons here in Marine Area 7, and this one's not. Why does it exist? So I did some research, and I'm going to go over it for you guys right now. The Chinook salmon fishery in Bellingham Bay is what they call a terminal fishery, which is deliberately created to harvest abundant hatchery-produced Chinook, which are returning to that bay while minimizing impacts on other struggling wild stocks. Over time, the Puget Sound Chinook fisheries were sharply restricted, as you guys know, over time due to weak wild runs, which affected both commercial and recreational fishermen as a whole. And rather than forego all local Chinook fishing in this entire area, co-managers, meaning WDFW and some of the local tribes, developed a strategy for the Bellingham Bay fishery that focuses on hatchery Chinook from healthy stock lineages. The fishery exists because it provides harvest opportunity on surplus hatchery-raised salmon without harming any of the ESA-listed wild Chinook. So according to an article which you can find at nwtreatytribes.org, northwesttreatytribes.org, according to this article, this hatchery program and subsequent harvest opportunity are co-managed by Lummi, Nooksack, and WDFW as a terminal fishery, intended to provide treaty-reserved fishing opportunities for food and wildlife. The returning fish are not needed to resupply the hatchery program, nor do the co-managers intend for non-native fish to spawn in the waterway. And a little sidebar, that waterway being Whatcom Creek. According to Satrina Wilson, hopefully I pronounced that right, which is the Endangered Species Act policy representative for Lummi Natural Resources, she said, "We release these fish, they go to sea, they grow big and strong, and some feed the whales and some come back. The goal is to utilize hatchery programs to reestablish treaty reserve fishing opportunity lost from habitat degradation," which, as you guys know, that is obviously one of the biggest problems that we have with our entire fisheries here in Washington State, and something that's really hard for us to combat. So this is a really unique approach to handling something like that. And the co-managers explicitly labeled this as a terminal fishery because it was intended to provide treaty reserved harvest opportunities and food for wildlife. The returning Chinook are not needed for hatchery spawning. like we talked about before, nor are they meant to colonize Whatcom Creek naturally. This cooperative arrangement was built into the fishery from the very start. So, as an example, when the state opens a sports season in Bellingham Bay, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, or in Whatcom Creek, they make sure to stagger that season and close sport fishing at different times so that tribal fisheries, when they use nets, aren't going to be occurring and having gear conflicts. And that's according to northwestsportsmagazine.com. But all of these efforts are to underscore that the Bellingham Bay king fishery exists to serve two purposes: to allow sustainable salmon harvest for people, both tribal and non-tribal in the area, and to mitigate lost wild fish by using hatchery salmon to help both human and ecological needs. So I think that's a pretty cool win-win. And as we dug into a little bit more about this whole story, the goals are both for ecosystem and conservation. It's a very unique aspect of this specific fishery is its tie-in with the southern resident killer whale recovery, which I'm sure you guys have heard about in the news. The Chinook returning to the Bellingham Bay were also intended as an extra food source for orcas. And in 2019, the governor's Orca task force recommended boosting hatchery production in key foraging areas like Bellingham Bay because it's near prime orca habitat, which is the San Juan Islands. So by increasing those Chinook returns to that location, it was also seen as another win-win for both nature and humans. And any fish not caught by people would ideally end up in a predator's mouth, which has actually been observed. They have seen orcas feeding on this stock. So the unharvested fish, let's talk about that, because obviously they don't all get scooped up. They are going to die inside of the Whatcom Creek. And one of the questions people say, well, if they go up this creek, isn't that going to contaminate stocks that are there or have a non-native stock spawning? And the answer to that is no. Not only are the carcasses, when they die, fertilizing the ecosystem, it's really healthy to introduce all those nutrients inside of the creek from the decaying animals that help sustain feeding insects, young fish, and just restores the ecosystem altogether, which is a very urban waterway. But also, it's a really controlled harvesting outlet. So most of these fish are going to get caught either by nets or by recreational fishermen or by predators, which is great. But there is no fish ladder in Whatcom Creek, which prevents these fish from getting to the Nooksack River. So they're just going to go in that creek and that's where they're going to stay, which is pretty cool. So obviously my next question, and probably your next question, if you're thinking about this like a nerd, is where do the actual Bellingham Bay kings come from if we're not reproducing these fish at all? And the Bellingham Bay Chinook are transplanted hatchery stock. So all of the kings from that hatchery program are using Samish River Fall Chinook as the brood stock. So each year, WDFW staff at the Samish hatchery in Skagit County collect the eggs and the milt from adult Chinook and fertilize them, and then they incubate them. And those fertilized eggs, which is usually about 500,000 annually, are transplanted to Bellingham Technical College. And they have a fisheries and aquaculture science program, which is super cool. And that actually operates in conjunction with WDFW to raise all of these fish and release them. The students and the faculty are raising the Chinook from eyed eggs to fry and smolt stages right in Bellingham. This college-run hatchery rearing is completely done in cooperation with WDFW and the tribes, which includes clipping the adipose fin of each juvenile fish before they're released and marking them as a hatchery origin fish. So about 5 to 6 months of rearing, then these Chinook are released near the mouth of Whatcom Creek in Bellingham Bay. That way they imprint, which we've talked about in a previous episode, how scent, natal water scent is so important to our fish and how they migrate. And if you aren't sure what I'm talking about, make sure you go back and listen to episode 25, where we talk a little bit more about that. So they release these fish at the mouth of the creek. They imprint on that location and they will return there as an adult. And it's just so cool. So the first actual release of these Chinook, specifically raised in this capacity, took place only in 2018, so not that long ago. And again, you can find more information about this at nwtreatytribes.org. The fish spent several years maturing in the ocean, and then the earliest from that cohort returned in 2020. Initial returns obviously were pretty modest, so they're only a few dozen Chinook strays that showed up in 2020. But the program has since scaled up. So between 2022 and 2023, annual releases were on the order of 500,000 smolts, so much larger releases than that initial test release, and their returns climbed into the thousands. So it's also important to note that co-managers have no intention of letting these fish establish wild spawning population in Wapcom Creek, as we've talked about before. This is considered an isolated harvest program, where all returning fish are either harvested or they complete their life cycle and just give back to the creek through their decay. Yeah, it's a pretty neat program. It's really interesting to note as well that before this program even kicked off in 2018, Bellingham Bay still did see hatchery Chinook returns from outside sources. So as an example, like the Samish hatchery fish pass through that area, which is also that large fall Chinook hatchery program. And it's been around for decades.
So when we're talking about this Lummi fishery and this Bellingham Bay fishery, obviously the fish going back to Whatcom Creek are part of the returning fish. And I believe if you look at the Nooksack River, obviously it's a big river. They got hatcheries up at Kendall Creek and Skookum Creek, which I don't see Skookum Creek on here, but we know there's at least 2 hatcheries up there. But these fish could be going back to, it could be late Nooksack returners. It could be the Bellingham Technical returners. And even thinking about the Fraser River up in Vancouver, tons of fish come up through the San Juan Islands out by Eagle Point, and we catch those pretty routinely out there. So, there could be even some fish from there coming into this area that we get to fish the last 6 weeks of the season. So just a good opportunity all around for fish to be in that area.
So like Scott said, there are other stocks that come through that area. Fish don't really obey boundaries, as we know. But this primary source is created by this program at BCT. So pretty freaking cool. And what does that mean for us as fishermen? We're going to dive into that next.
Well, the thing is, that fishery is, like Jamie said, it exists mainly because of the Bellingham Technical College. And it's really a good opportunity for us to go out and fish, even from Anacortes. It's a pretty decent or reasonable run to get up there. So looking at the boundaries for the area, you can see it goes from the top of Guima's Island up along Sinclair, up to Lone Tree, over to Sandy Point, and then down to Gooseberry Point, including Bellingham Bay, and then kind of down around Padilla Bay. And actually, you can fish almost all the way around Guima's Island, all the way over to the Anacortes Ferry Dock. So it's a pretty big area, and really you can find fish in a lot of places in this area. Most people that you will see out there fishing are going to be between Lummi and Sinclair and north of Guimas. You can be pretty spread out and not jammed up on top of each other. The good thing about this is you will find coho out there. We've caught coho, pinks, and kings. And the thing is, it's a 4-fish limit. So any 4 fish that you catch, you can keep. And Chinook still have to be 22 inches. And then all the other species, no minimum size. So it's a pretty good time out there if you're getting into fish. And it is a terminal, and it is at the end of the season. So you'll go out there days and it will be slow, kind of a grind. And then other days you might catch 1 or 2 or 3. So it's
or a limit. We've had some really awesome days there.
There have been some pretty big fish. So it's kind of fun to go up there and try it different days. And we've had 30-pounders caught out of there the last couple of years. So I don't suspect that'll be any different this year. That is really it. And you cannot fish in there during the normal Area 7 days, but you do still mark Area 7 on your catch record when you catch a fish there. So it is an Area 7 fishery. It's Bellingham Bay. You get 4 fish a day.
And you can keep marked and unmarked fish. That's important to note too.
It doesn't matter what you catch. You keep them all. So that's really about it. And then, the Resurrection Derby coming up as soon as this thing kicks off. 31-pounder last year, caught by one of our own local people here in Anglers Unlimited.
We have this thing called the Resurrection Derby. If you've tuned into this podcast for a year, thank you first. We appreciate you. But also, you may have heard us talk about this last year. So this derby, and Scott, actually, you've been the chair for this derby for several years. Do you want to give a little bit of history about what Resurrection is and why we have it?
Well, we kind of took it over it was held out in Friday Harbor, and then we started having it here because it just got logistically, it got difficult to run the derby in Friday Harbor. And, the real history of the derby it was resurrected from a derby that they used to have on, I believe, on Orcas Island. And that's why they called it the Resurrection. And I don't know the hard facts of the true history. There's guys out there that do that they brought it from Orcas to Friday Harbor, and then we brought it to Anacortes.
Maybe we can find that out for our next episode.
We should find that out.
Yeah.
We should find that out. And if anybody knows, any of you,
yeah, let us know in the comments.
Senior people,
if you know the story.
So, it's a little bit different now because it's a different time of year.
It was in the winter, just for clarity's sake.
It's fun, and we have a good turnout. We had great prizes. We're going to have a great dinner on Sunday. Before the Derby, we're going to have a captain's meeting down at Rockfish Bar and Grill. The 16th and 17th are the fishing days. We are keeping the scales open a little bit later because it is summertime. And, you know, historically, when we were doing it in the winter, it got dark at 5.
Yeah.
So, you know, it didn't make sense to fish till 7. So we'll have a little longer fishing on both days. Scales open later. And you can get your tickets online. You can go to resurrectionderby.com. And tickets are available, $100 a piece. Everybody on the boat's got to have a ticket, but you can have, if you have a big boat, you can have as many as you would like fishing on your boat. So it's always a good time to just hang out with the people, see the fish, and then give away big checks at the end.
If you've never fished a derby, just to paint a picture of what it's like, I fished my very first derby. It was a freaking blast, and it wasn't because I caught fish. That was not the most fun of the actual experience. It was meeting all the amazing anglers that go out and love fishing so much they want to add a little competition to it. I mean, what fisherman doesn't like to tell fishing lies or, you know, disguise what the lure is that they're using like it's going to be the key to their success to win the $10,000. I mean, it's just fun. When there's a little competition involved in the sport, you can't help but have a great time. So it's a cool way, if you don't know people, to get to know people and become really lifelong friends at an event like this. There's tons of camaraderie. It's just a really great social time. So to paint a picture of what it's going to be like Scott said, we're going to have the captain's meeting on the 15th at Rockfish. And that is a no host. So you just come in, grab dinner if you want, grab a couple drinks, but we'll do a little talk, kind of give you an overview of all the schedule of events, do some cool raffle prizes. You're going to have an opportunity to buy some 50-50 tickets. But yeah, being at that captain's meeting is really fun to just get a feel for what the event's going to be like, figure out your logistics, and also potentially win some swag and gear. We're going to raffle stuff off at that captain's meeting that will not be available at the awards ceremony. Then you'll go fish. Fishing starts at daylight on the 16th. Scales will be in the afternoon at Cap Sandy Marina. That's where weigh-in will be taking place, as Scott said. And then we'll have fishing on the 17th, daylight. Scales, I think, close at 5 that day. So we can get the awards ceremony kicked off at 6 p.m., which will also be within walking distance to Cap Sandy Marina in town. And it's a super fun time. The train depots where we're hosting it. We'll have some food for you guys.
Taco bar.
If you like tacos, you will be happy. And then we have a really cool committee team that is just getting a ton of incredible prizes. So one of the benefits of these derbies is you don't go home empty-handed, even if you don't catch a fish. So potential to win up to $10,000. So what's so cool about this event is all of the proceeds, after we pay out the prize money and after we cover the expenses of the event, go straight to fish enhancement and scholarships. So this is also a shout out for a couple reasons. Number one, if you want to support a program like Bellingham Technical College's fisheries program, we literally donate to programs exactly like this. And if you know a student that goes to this college and is looking for grant money for a research project or is looking for scholarship money to just go and fund their experience, that's exactly who we want to support as a club. Our whole mission is to help this sport survive, and that includes fish enhancement programs as well as scholarships. Go to the website, which we will make sure to link in the show notes. Send it to anyone that you know that is involved in marine sciences or fisheries. We would love to get in contact with them and have them apply. And I say we, it's funny. We're with Anglers Unlimited, but Scott and I are volunteers with Puget Sound Anglers and have been for a very long time. It's an incredible community, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of the projects we've supported in the past as Puget Sound Anglers.
No, our main goal is really scholarships and, like Jamie said, fish enhancement. We've donated to hatcheries. We've bought equipment for some of the hatcheries in the local area. We've helped with the fish pens in Oak Harbor. We've done herring studies. We've attempted to do herring net introductions into the area to help herring population or herring growth in the area. So we're always looking for something that's good to contribute to fish recovery and fishing enhancement. And we're also looking for passionate people that want to be involved in fisheries for scholarships. That's the big thing, or the big places where the money is going. And, over the past probably 3 years, I think we've probably given away about $45,000 or $50,000 in scholarships and fish projects. So,
and that money comes from derbies like this.
And this is where we make the money is in the Resurrection Derby and the Halibut Derby earlier in the year. So we're continuously looking for things to support and people to support.
Yep.
So.
And also, if you want to support by donating $100, grab your ticket. Even if you can't fish it, it goes to a really incredible cause. So with that, we want to say thank you to everyone who has supported the Derby in the past. And we really look forward to the fun that we're going to have this season. If you are an Inner Circle member with Anglers Unlimited, I do want you to know we are running a fun little side competition for anyone who in our community weighs in the biggest fish within our group. We'll get also another additional prize. So that makes it a lot of fun. If you want to learn more about our Anglers Unlimited community, just email support@anglersunlimited.co. Catch more fish, and we'll send you the link so you can check it out and see if it's a fit for you. So we have covered a lot, but it's just so cool to have that full circle, like Bellingham Bay Fishery. Although the Resurrection Derby did not start there, it really is so aligned with the entire mission of Puget Sound anglers. And one thing that we care about here at Anglers Unlimited is supporting our community, supporting our fisheries, and bringing humans together that are like-minded and absolutely love the sport beyond just catching fish. It's so much more than that. So I want to say, first of all, thank you for everyone that's tuning in. And if you found some value out of this episode, or you know somebody that may want to know more about what opportunities are out there, give it a like or a share, and send it to a kid that maybe is going to go into fisheries. So a lot of cool opportunities out there for multiple people.
It's a good cause.
It is a great cause. So grab your tickets. Doors close on the 13th of August.
Wednesday.
So with that, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Same time, same place, same channel. We're going to talk about coho. All things
it's coming.
coho.
It's coming up.
Yep. So if you want to know how to get prepped for coho, we will be chatting about that in our next episode. So thanks so much. We'll catch you guys later.
Be a fun time.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.